Mm. I'll be with you guys shortly. I am just making sure everything's working okay because it looks like my video is not working well. So I kind of cut that away. I don't know what it's doing. I'm not an expert at this. I know enough to be dangerous. That's about it. Okay, well, people are jumping on here. Can you guys all hear me? Okay, at least hopefully the volume's working. Yeah?
Can.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so if you saw by the email, we're going to talk about a few things that I think will be helpful going forward. Most of us that are doing the remote training are in this area, so we've been dealing with some crappy weather, real crappy weather. Actually, the last 3 weeks. I don't know about you, but it's pretty mild until like end of January, right before February hit. Now it's just been real tough, but it looks like it's going to start clearing up some of that, so that helps. But noticing with all of the people that are in the program, which are like 300 plus or so, a lot of people really did a dip in mileage this week. So you got to be careful if you were training, going along pretty well, clipping along your miles and getting your volume in, weekly mileage in. And then this week took a hit pretty hard because of the weather. And I know it's some people don't have access to a treadmill. Some people live out in the middle of nowhere and might have got snowed in and all kinds of things. So, there's no judgments there, but it's just, I want to make sure that people aren't getting hurt. So if, you drop down, like, let's just take, for example, I shared the screen. All right. So if you look at example, let me get my mouse right. Okay. There we go. Uh, yeah. So this week, the good thing was we're dropping down a week, so that's good. This is going to be a rest week coming up. So we were at 45 miles last week, so we're going to dip to 40. So that works in your favor if you weren't able to get a lot of miles in. I build in these rest weeks about every fourth week. We after we go up, we take a dip. So we'll go up for 3 more weeks, then we'll take a dip. And I like to do that, as I've explained in emails before, to let you recuperate, let the workouts, take effect, get some breathing room, let's say, before we take on the next workload. So we're going to drop to 40. So that definitely helps. But like, let's say 45 miles is last week. You only got out your long run and another run, and you're like 25 miles somewhere in there. So you like did half of what was there. Well, you don't want to then have 100% increase and go from 20 miles to 40 miles. It's a little sketchy. You probably want to go from maybe 20 to 30 miles this week, and then you could go back into 42 the next week. Then it would be a little bit more practical to do it that way. So you want to not just map out, what do I do this week, but you want to see how can I get back to where I should be in the next couple weeks. And so if you do that a little bit more, parcel it out more, let's say week by week to get to that, back to the weekly mileage, you'll be better than just trying to go, 20 miles to 40 miles in a week. You might not get hurt, but it's not the risk I'd be willing to take with it. Okay, so just be careful with that. That's my first reminder to everyone, is be careful with all of that. Now, that's one thing with winter running that you have to take into account. Missing days, making sure you make up with them. That's the hard thing about a spring marathon, half marathon, is that the difference between that and the fall. Fall marathon, you got all summer and everything to train, and it's nice weather, and people have no problems training. Spring marathons are a lot more difficult because of where you live. If you live in a place where weather gets like this, it can hamper your training. So you have to be creative, treadmill, indoor tracks, Uh, maybe there's a stretch of road that you know is plowed and doesn't have a lot of traffic that's 2 miles long, back and forth on that. I've seen crazy creative things from people just to make sure they get their runs in. And that's good. You know, obviously you don't want to put yourself in danger. Don't want to be running down, you know, the expressway where cars are going 55 because that's the only thing plowed. We don't want that. We just want, you know, trying to be a little bit more creative. Some people will just say, forget it. That's up to you. But just remember that mileage, we got to keep track of that so no one gets hurt. That's why I want you to be a little bit cognizant of your weekly mileage too, especially in the winter months, because it can be harder to hit. Okay. So that's number one for winter running. You have to shift days around. A lot of people did their long run today because it was a much nicer day than yesterday. That's perfectly fine. I think I told this group before, just avoid back-to-back rest days and avoid back-to-back workouts. And the long run is considered a workout. Okay, so make sure those 3 workout days in there stay separate from each other, and the rest days stay separate from each other, basically. All right, and we've gone over that. Okay, so you can see I've highlighted the next 2 weeks because I probably won't see you then until March 7th. So if we look at the 2 weeks, it leads us right up into the race. The next weekend would be the race. If you're in town and can go to the race, I suggest it because that way you can start planning for how you're going to take in nutrition, how you're going to take in fuel, how you're going to take in all that, because the race won't provide it for you either. They will just have some water out there for you. So that's a good way to practice it in a race setting. Okay. Also, you will have people in there running with you. So it's good to have that race atmosphere at least one time before we get to the Glass City Marathon. Those of you that are running it, I just don't want you to go 16 weeks without any competition around you or any type of race situation. And then you're dropping into your first marathon and trying to run with everyone around you and adjust the pacing and things like that and fueling. So this is a good opportunity for that. Now, I know there's going to be one later in the month from the Roadrunners, the Toledo Roadrunners, but they still don't have approval yet from the health department to do it. So I'm not sure if it's going to be live or not. At this time, they don't know yet. So I'm not sure either. But that is supposed to happen like week 13. It gets a little too close to the race because we want to focus on our long runs now after this one coming up, the Shamrock and Mayhem or whatever on the 13th. But you still can do it because I would definitely want you to get in something. If you don't live in the area, there's no races around you. There is the virtual option, which I would suggest just so you can get out that day, run a 15K or that weekend, 15K, 25K, and really push it and see what you can do, okay? And I'm gonna give all types of scenarios that you might wanna treat this as in the race. But you definitely wanna test your fitness, as we call it at this point. See how fit you are, see how you're feeling in this longer race. You know, a 2-mile time trial isn't gonna really give us an indication, or a 5K isn't really going to give us a good indication of how you're doing and how you feel for that half marathon distance. Okay. The different system you're working in a 5K versus a half and full. I mean, it's a lot different. You know, that cardio system, it gets worked differently. So I definitely suggest a 15K, 25K. And if you can't be there in person, I definitely think if there's not something around you can do in person, because that's my first thing. I really push the in-person race because that's a big thing to get in there and to have others around you and see how you'll react and respond to paces and different things going on in the race. Some of you are veteran runners, race all the time, might not be that necessary. But a lot of us who aren't very familiar with marathon and half marathon racing, this is an opportunity to get into a longer distance race and see how that goes for you. Okay? So I'm really pushing that. And if not, at least a virtual to get out there and race and fuel while you're racing and taking in water while you're racing to see how that goes for that 25K, 15K. Definitely helps. All right. So that's for the race. It's just a good check for your progression is what it mainly is. Because once we get rid of that, as you can see, we then really begin to hit long runs. And I'm kind of focusing more on the marathoners here because their long runs really jump up 18. And then this spring run is the 20 miler, 18 to 20. Those that are still struggling with 18 miles, like you're done with 18 and you just feel completely wiped out. I would probably suggest you stick around 18 when you get to down here at the beginning of April. But if you're handling the 18s well, then I'll suggest 20. And I'll get into that more once we get closer. I was just throwing it out there. But you see, we have a big workouts coming up these next couple of weeks. And so that's why I've highlighted them. For full and half marathoners, your track workouts are pretty much the same. So you're doing both of you will be doing the 2 by 2,400 meters. Not quite 2 miles, more like 1.5 miles. Okay, so that will push you pretty hard. And then you have another long pace tempo, 2 to 7 miles at your pace. Half marathon pace would be, that's going to be 6 miles right there with a mile up in the beginning and then a mile down at the end to cool down. And you see the half plans, very similar, except you're just 1 mile shorter. So you're doing a mile up and a mile down, and then you're doing that 5 miles in the middle, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It says 75 minutes here, but I don't think we're there yet. We'll get to those in the later tempos that I'll start putting a time frame on it. I think everyone will be okay with 75 minutes, so don't worry about that too much. Those will be the big workouts, and you see you still doing a 10, 2 by 2,400, and you're doing the fartlek next week along with the marathoners. Open pace, for those of you doing the low mileage plan or the open pace plan, you're doing 2 times 1,600, not 2 times 2,400, a little less, but still it'll be tough. Same type of fartlek you're doing as everyone else. And then yours are getting into your midweek distance run is getting up there. So we're trying to work you up to close to an hour before the half and full marathon as a secondary long run to give you that distance base you'll need to complete that half. Okay. And then your long runs are 7 and 8 on the weekends, just as the half. We'll stick with 9 the next 2 weeks. Get you used to that 9. And then when we move up to Shamrock and Mayhem, it'll be a 9.3 race. If you do the 15K, you warm up a little, cool down a little, you'll definitely get in 10 miles for that day. So that'd be a good 9 to 10 mile day. And then we'll switch over to 10 miles for the next 2 weeks for the halves. Halves, we won't go above 11. 11's pretty good for the half. Okay, that'll get us there. Help us beginners. The fitness for you beginners, for the people doing this pace, that's where this comes in. These long runs in the middle are good to go after and good to put in a harder paced run. Those will definitely help you for those doing the low mileage plan, putting in a more of a harder paced run on these secondary distance workouts. That will definitely help you throughout the plans. Okay. 15 exercises, not really for the distance. I think the running's the main thing, Padma, that will definitely help you, is getting in these Tuesday, Thursday long runs at a up-tempo pace. I think that'll help. I know it says easy, but if you're looking for it to build that fitness up stronger, taking these a little harder will definitely help that too. Okay, that'll definitely help the fitness. All right, so that's for that. I just wanted to go over the plans for the next 2 weeks, make sure if there's any questions, we clear those up now. Now, reminder, this is my big reminder again. I don't remember if I say it over and over, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over. There is a workout hierarchy here, okay? Long run is top priority. I was talking to a couple of people through email in our remote group. They were trying to get in the fartleks and they're trying to get in the easy runs. I'm like, listen, the long run, if you have to move other days around just to get that long run in because you know you're stressed on your schedule or you won't be able to hit them all, get the long run in. That is top priority for any long distance training, is going to be your long run. Time on your feet, getting out there and just pounding the pavement with it. 16 miles for the fulls, 9s for the halves coming up, and 8 and 7 that for the low mileage open pace group. We definitely want to keep those going. You know, sometimes it happens where you miss one and that's fine. You just don't want to keep missing long runs. If you keep missing long runs, you slowly begin to put yourself into a hole as we get closer to that race, okay? Of a struggle of, you know, now I haven't been doing long runs and now the long run is getting to the point where I don't know if I'll be able to complete the long run. You know, if you're not doing long runs week after week, and now we're up to 16 miles for the marathoners, it's going to be hard to run a 16 miler if the last long run you did was 10, okay? Same with the halves. When we get to 10 miles, it's going to be hard to do a 10 miler if the last long run you did was 6. It's going to be a real struggle. So try to hit these long runs. That's workout priority 1. Workout priority 2 is the road workout, okay? And that's the Tuesday, Thursday. It's listed on the plans For you guys, remote training, you can do them any, you can swap them around. But for those that are in person, that's why it says Tuesday, Thursday, because they have a track day. They're actually on a track. But you can do it either day, Tuesday or Thursday. But this road workout is what I call it, where you're on the roads doing a tempo, doing a fartlek, something like that. That's second most important, because that is another longer based run, but now it is a longer based run with some strength, some cardio running in there, some pushing that marathon pace that you're going to need to do. So that is the second most important workout of the run, of the week, of each week. Now, the last and least important workout is for the half marathon and full marathon people is the track workout. Okay. Because that gets a lot short. That's a little bit more shorter. It really doesn't lend itself to long distance training. It does give you some incremental help, but it doesn't help you as much as the other two workouts. I'm not saying it doesn't help, because it does, or we wouldn't even bother doing it, but it doesn't quite help as much as the other two. Okay. If we were doing 5K training, 10K training, yeah, these would be the bread and butter. We'd be hitting these workouts a little harder. But since it's not, we kind of focus more on the long run and these road workouts where we're doing long fartleks or long tempo and threshold runs. So focus on that. Now, there is a little bit of an exception in there with our open pace, low mileage group. This track workout is important. It's important. It's as important as this Tuesday, Thursday run to get out there. This is important too, because this helps you work on getting your pace together, getting your fitness up a little more, because most people that are in the open pace and low mileage group are a lot newer to distance running. So this definitely lends itself into helping you out as cardio wise as a distance runner. So this is definitely as important as this run. Okay, your Tuesday, Thursday run. So they go hand in hand. But you guys up here that are in the half and full plans, that are training to complete a half at a good time, not just finish it or get through it and complete your first half. Maybe you're doing your third or fourth half in your marathon. Maybe this is your 30th marathon. You guys know the drill, but just to keep that reminder out there, long run's most important, road workout second, track day third for your guys' training. Okay. Easy days, those are in there to loosen up the legs and keep adding volume to your training overall. But if something had to be given up, those would be the days, obviously, that would be first, would be the 4, 5, 6 mile days in there. Okay. All right. I've gone over that and I go over it repeatedly. I never stop doing it because in the winter, people love the track workouts. And I know that. I mean, most people do. They like getting on the track and seeing how fast they can go. And I get it. I'm not going to lie to you. I do too. Who doesn't? But just try to keep your eye on the prize for this race, because it's a long training cycle, and I want you to be able to get to the race ready to go for a marathon. Not the 5K the day before, because they do have a 5K the day before, but we want to be ready for the full and half. All right, plenty of 5Ks in the summer. Don't worry, we'll get to them. And then the only really other thing I want to really stress that we're going to start pushing out to everybody, if you are registered for the Glass City Marathon or half marathon, one big thing that's going to be a different change to you is, if you've run it before or any race before, there will be only water tables out on the course. Water only, and they will be in small little bottles. So there won't be Gatorade out there. There won't be honey stinger gels or any type of anything caloric for you to take in will have to be done on your own. So these long runs are perfect days for you to start trying different things if you don't have a system in place. I mean, I haven't run a marathon in about 20 years, but back when I did, you were lucky if there was Gatorade out there. And I know some of our older runners, that probably running marathons before I was, they'll tell you they know that there was times when there was barely water out there. So it's not like we've never done this before. This is things that have happened. I used to pin goos inside of my running shorts when I would be in a marathon, and I would rip them off with my safety pin and just take them that way when I knew a water stop was coming up. We have better ways to do that now. There's nutrition belts, there's hydration belts, there's CamelBaks that people carry, there's the handheld bottles, there's all kinds of powders now, Tailwind, EAS, all kinds of supplements and nutrition that all of you can start experimenting with and taking advantage of seeing what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Okay. So by all means, start now and start experimenting with that, because this is going to play an important part in any race you do that's over 45 minutes to an hour. You have to take in calories. You cannot really get through the end of a race without taking in some type of calories to get you through the entire, 2, 3 hours, 4 hours that you might be out there. You have to have some calories coming in, okay? Or else you definitely will hit a huge wall. So let's start thinking about that now out there, because our long runs are beginning to bump up. We're at 15 miles last week for marathoners, and I believe 8s were the halves last week, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and we're going to just keep increasing. So now is the time to start messing around with supplements, nutrition, see what works for you, see how you're going to carry it in a race. Is a handheld water, you're going to be able to do that for 2, 3 hours. You're going to be able to carry that in your arm. Start worrying about that now and trying it out in long runs instead of waiting, a couple weeks out and trying to experiment then. Okay. Because now is the time that we can iron this out. If something doesn't go right, you can ask others, you can talk to me, you can talk to, other people who have run that are in the groups and see, what works for them too. Okay. And I think there's even a few coupons in the coupons you guys got for the program that have supplements. They have a discount on supplements at Dave's too. So and Dave's has all kinds. We have everything. I was using the one stuff. It has sour watermelon. It was really good. It's like EAS or something. I don't know. I use it for my long runs. And I'm kind of a sugar junkie, so it has a nice sugar taste to it, so it doesn't bother me. But I can't eat stuff. I've tried goo. I've tried, when I used to do it when I run, I would eventually at the end of the race just hack up, like, I don't know. It was a nasty substance. It looked like black tar, basically, at the end of a race with the goo and all those packs. They didn't sit well with me. So I had to switch over to taking fuel liquid. And so I would put them out on the course, and I would take in, I don't think they make it anymore. It was Ultra Fuel. It was high in calories and it was high in carbs. So I would just drink that and water it down. So it was easy on my stomach. And those are the things you'll have to experiment with. Maybe you try Gatorade. Doesn't work well with your stomach. Irritates you. Maybe you got to water it down a little. Maybe you got to go with the jelly beans that people use, the little sports beans out there, or maybe the Gatorade blocks. There is everything and anything nowadays. To either eat or drink that will give you the calories, that will give you the electrolytes, that will give you all that stuff to keep you going. But now is the time to do it. Okay. Not, 2 weeks before the race. And if you have questions, be glad to help you out with it as much as I can. That's the big thing we're going to start pushing out, not just me, but the Glass City Marathon in general, is because, we are aware of it. There will be more medical teams out on the course, but we just want to make sure that everybody is aware and begins to plan for it. And there'll be a few other things we throw at you too, but we'll keep reminding you as we get closer to it. Okay, we have about 5 minutes or so left before I cut out of here. But anyway, how about questions for me? Anyone have anything to add? Anything exciting?
Hi.
Hey, fire away, Padma.
I had a question about shoes. How soon it would now be a good time to switch shoes while you're training? Or how soon
That's a great question, because we are starting to come up to that,
Mhm.
especially for marathon training. What you do is you usually track your shoes by mileage. Okay. You write down usually when you have a new pair of shoes. It is more of a individual idea, but once you get to about 300 miles on a pair of shoes is when you want to kind of pay a little bit more attention to how your legs feel after runs and workouts. I tell people don't go past 500, because 500, then you're really rolling the dice on if your legs are going to hold up with your shoes. So between 300 and 500, I usually find myself, I get to just over 400 and I start creeping up on 500. My knees, everything below my knees starts getting really sore and won't loosen up. Like my calves start feeling like rocks after almost every single run, and my knees start to get achy. Usually most of shoe issues like mileage and that, you'll feel it from the knees down. you'll begin to feel it that way a little more. Shins start getting sore, like shin splints, calves start getting tighter, knees start getting a little achy. That's when it's time for a new pair. And I always tell people, I know it's not a cheap investment. It's over $100 most times, but it's either that or PT appointments, one or the other. Because if you don't and get yourself hurt, then you're going to a PT guy and they're going to say, yeah, what are your shoes? And go, oh, well, you need new shoes first, and let's try that. Or it could be the shoes that you're in. And but definitely start thinking around 300 miles. How well do these shoes, or how are they holding up? My legs starting to feel tired after runs. My knees beginning to bug me. What is beginning to bug me? But around 300, I find, because it depends on your obviously your form, how rough is your form on your shoes, your weight, how heavy are you? I can tell you back in 2000, I could put a hell of a lot more miles on shoes than I can now, because I'm about 40 pounds heavier. So it's not the same. And definitely I don't get as close to 500 as I used to with shoes. I used to be able to get 500. I'm lucky I get 400 now, and I start looking around for new ones. So it has other factors into it. That's why we don't have a hard, fast number for you. And it also depends on the shoe you have. I think like the real expensive Vaporflies that people use for workouts and for running, I think you're good to get maybe 200 miles if you're lucky, 150 to 200 out of those. But you can buy some real durable ones that might be able to squeak out a few more. But I say 300 to 500 is that window.
Okay. Yeah, because the pair that I have was what I used for my last half, Churchill's, and I still have that. So I was just wondering if I should just get a new pair now and just rotate them. Would that be a good idea? I mean, rather than.
A lot of people rotate, and that's a personal preference. When you run, you compress down the foam, and people will say I rotate every other day because it allows the foam to kind of come back into shape and form. I haven't seen a ton of studies saying that's an absolute necessity, but a lot of people do like to rotate them. If you rotate, though, definitely keep your eyes on the older pair to make sure you don't keep rotating them past like mileage and then get hurt that way. Usually people will buy 2 new pair and rotate those. And they say they get better longevity out of them. And I've never done it. I've never rotated it because I'm kind of a cheapskate. So I always just have 1 pair. But I've heard people when they rotate them, they say they get more longevity out of their shoes. And I can't argue with them because I've never tried it, but I've heard that. So yeah, rotating it's always a good thing too. Some people have workout shoes too. When they go faster, they use a lighter shoe. When they do their track workouts or road workouts too, they like to feel a little lighter, so they do that. But yeah, that's a good idea. Definitely a new pair though. I wouldn't keep running on those.
Okay.
Yeah, because even about 6 months is when you'd want to get a new pair if you don't have 300 to 500 mileage. Like let's say you're in the open pace or low mileage plan, about 6 months is when you want to swap them out too, because that outsole, the white foam that you see on a lot of shoes, that becomes to dry out and get brittle too on you after about 6 months. So you got to be careful with that. But that's a great question. I usually try to bring that up in another week or two because the marathoners are going to be hitting big. Their big mileage is coming up, and they've been racking up miles the last 2 months. So we start talking about that too. But good, that's a good point to bring up.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, how about anyone else? Fire away.
Hey, Bob, I got a question then. You mentioned on the workout priorities, if we can't make it to the track, I'm assuming it's fine to do a track workout either on an outdoor track or on the road, right? If it's clear.
Absolutely. Because there's not a lot of indoor tracks around. And right. I know you guys out in Finley, have they opened up the track yet there?
I'm not sure yet, but I've been doing them on the treadmill as well. So
yeah, wherever. It's just to get a little quick, and wherever the roads, I would just make sure if you are outside on the roads or a track, it's not icy. And because you don't want to slip around when you're going that fast. It's all you need to do is strain your hamstring or something like that. When you're going easy pace, you can at least be a little bit more deliberate with your footing. If it gets trickier, if there's an ice or snow patch coming up, you can be a little bit more deliberate with your steps and you're running easy. But when you're going, 2,400 meters, 2 mile repeats, and you're cranking out something, you kind of don't pay attention to the ground as much, and that causes more slipping and sliding if you don't have a nice clear path. So definitely make sure you have that. But yeah, anywhere is good. I haven't heard from the University of Finley if they opened their indoor facility yet. I knew we couldn't go. Ryan's shaking his head no, so that's a no out there. I guess it's still closed down because I know they didn't host any indoor tracks for high school kids, so I'm assuming they still have it shut down, which is a bummer. It'd be nice. I mean, get some people outside from outdoors indoors, but it is what it is, I guess, at this point. But that's a good question. Yeah, outdoor is fine as long as as long as you got a clear path. And this week looks like it's going to be nice and warm, so the ice should be gone during the day.
Yeah.
So that'll be helpful.
Thank you.
No problem. What else? We good? You guys are so well behaved. Awesome. All right. So anyway, so those are the 2 weeks. Highlighted them all. Kind of talked about them. If you run into any problems, always reach out. I'm always available. I try to get back to you within 24 hours if it's an email or anything, and we'll go from there. But as you can see, after this, we'll get a nice little down week this week. So enjoy it. And if you missed some days last week, slowly get yourself back up in mileage. That's fine. And because the next 3 weeks we hit is going to be a good 3 weeks coming up. Weather's going to be coming around a little bit. Got a race in there. Marathoners going to be hitting some serious long runs, and our halves are going to be hitting double digits, on that last big week there on second week of March. So it'll be a good day. It'll be a good day. Good couple month coming up in March. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Tell your friends next time. We'll be here same time, same place in 2 weeks. All right.
All
Right, guys. See you
Awesome.
later.
Thanks,
Enjoy your
Bob.
week. All right, take it easy.
Thanks, Bob.
See you guys.